Good morning. The president's stated goal is to make the federal government smaller, and his administration and the GOP-dominated Senate and House took steps towards that at the end of this week.
Senator Richard Blumenthal will address that in a moment, but first we want to talk about what took place Friday in the Oval Office, which happened after we recorded our interview with Senator Blumenthal and after a very cordial meeting between Zelensky and U.S. legislators from both sides of the aisle, including Blumenthal. Ukrainian President Zelensky, President Trump, and Vice President Vance took questions from gathered media. In answering one of those questions, President Zelensky pointed out Ukraine's history negotiating with Russia, saying that Putin has consistently broken deals with Ukraine. And then this happened.
You're not in a good position. You don't have the cards right now. With us, you start having cards. But right now, you don't. You're playing cards. You're playing cards. You're gambling with the lives of millions of people. You're gambling with World War III. You're gambling with World War III. And what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country, this country.
And with that, the meeting and the negotiation was over. Zelensky was essentially kicked out of the White House and told by President Trump to come back, quote, when he's ready for peace. Before the White House encountered, Senator Blumenthal reiterated the importance of standing with Ukraine, releasing a statement saying, quote, if Putin is not stopped in Ukraine, he will continue his murderous assaults against other European nations and ourselves, obligating direct involvement of American troops. Arms provided to Ukraine are an investment in American companies and American jobs. We should be supporting Ukraine militarily and economically without extracting payment.
President Zelensky is a hero. I met with him most recently a couple of weeks ago in Munich at the security conference there. I've been to Ukraine 6 times since this war, the assault by Putin on Ukraine, the murderous invasion. He started it, not Ukraine. He's the dictator, not Zelensky, who is immensely popular, genuinely, as I've seen on my 6 trips there. I've met with President Zelensky also every time he's visited Washington, most recently last Friday. So let me just be very blunt. United States security is at risk because Vladimir Putin wants to reestablish the Soviet sphere of influence. It used to be the Russian Empire, and he will keep going. If he swallows Ukraine, his next targets will be Poland, Romania, Finland, Sweden, NATO allies, where we have an Article 5 obligation to put troops on the ground in their defense. We need to stop him in Ukraine. And Ukraine is bleeding and dying. They're fighting our fight. We should, at the very least, provide the military equipment and tools they need to push back.
Now back to the government jobs that are being eliminated.
Just what's your take on what's been happening? You've been outspoken that some of these cuts are a bad idea.
I am opposed to these cuts. In fact, I have written just this week to the president, along with 20 of my colleagues, in a letter that I have co-led with Tim Kaine, senator from Virginia, asking the president to rescind all of the cuts of veterans from employment that he has made. He has already fired, for example, 5,400 Department of Defense civilian employees, 2,400 veterans from the VA, employees there. And in terms of Connecticut, it will inevitably affect us because we have about 10,000 federal employees here. They are all at risk. We're going to see a tsunami of additional cuts. And 45% of the DOD employees are veterans. So it's a disaster for our military readiness and security. It's catastrophic for our veterans. And it is slashing and trashing federal agencies that are essential, for example, to air safety, the FAA, or Veterans Services and Benefits, our West Haven facility. And it will begin to have real-life negative impacts for everyday Americans.
One of the things I think that people who are supporters of President Trump would say is he told us on the campaign trail he was going to cut from the sides of the government. He's doing what he promised. That's what we want a politician to do. So if that's what people voted for, what's the harm in him doing it then? What's your response to those folks?
The voters never anticipated that Elon Musk would be substituting for President Trump. And that's what's happening. Elon Musk is applying the algorithms and AI formulas with his tech bros going into agencies, just slashing arbitrarily and inconsistently without any explanation. And by the way, there are going to be massive litigation as a result of these firings because they're done without cause, without explanation, without reason. And at the end of the day, it will actually cost more. The American people wanted someone to eliminate waste. And by the way, I see places where waste should be eliminated. For example, on the Armed Services Committee, I've advocated in the Pentagon that certain weapons platforms be abandoned, but they didn't want him to lay waste to the VA or the Department of Defense.
Joe Walsh, the former Republican congressman who's very active on social media, who's an anti-Trump, very outspoken, said the Democrats have a big problem because the average people, they don't tweet, they don't watch cable news. There's a message problem getting to those folks. And I noticed that a lot of Democrats have been taking a different tack. And I saw one video you posted on social media after the inspectors general were fired. I believe the title was Blank That Ain't True. And I've known you for a very long time, and I'm reasonably certain in 25 plus years I've never heard you swear. They bleeped it out on the video. But is that part of it, is trying to figure out a different way to communicate the message? Because it seems that if Democrats have a message that they want to get across, it's not getting across.
I take it you don't want me to use that four-letter word on
you do whatever you like to do, Senator.
But that SH, you can fill in the blank, ain't true, is the kind of tactic that we need to do on social media, on all kinds of ways to reach everyday Americans. You know, Donald Trump was elected to reduce the price of eggs and other groceries, gas, rental, housing, and prices are rising. So there are facts here. Ronald Reagan once said, facts are stubborn things. And we need to use those facts, make people more aware of what's really happening and connect the dots. Rising prices, Donald Trump's economic policies, cuts in the workforce, delayed benefits and health care to our veterans, these kinds of tangible, real life effects. And we need to be more dramatic, you know, using four-letter words. Hey, if it takes four-letter words to get through to people, we're going to do it because the fight is worth it. We need to make people aware of how their lives and our democracy will be decimated by the kind of tyrannical, autocratic way Donald Trump, again, with Elon Musk, is slashing and trashing the federal government. Yes, eliminate waste, but don't lay waste to public-spirited and absolutely necessary services. And Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security, let's draw the line.
Senator Richard Blumenthal, thanks once again for being here on CT25.
Thank you, Eric.
Coming up.